Hi everyone and welcome back to Sade Crochets. For this tutorial, we will be making this beautiful and lacy face scrubby. It's a part of my luxury bath spa set. Earlier this week we did a loofah. So today we're going to do the face scrubby. So the yarn that we're going to use is the same as last time. It is a number 10 crochet thread, and I'm using Artiste again, and this color is called Peach Blossom. And the hooks that you're going to need, so I used 3 hooks to make this face scrubby. The first one is a G hook. It's written on here somewhere, so you'll need a 4.0 millimeter hook for the first hook. The second hook, you'll need an H hook, which is a 5 millimeter hook. And then the last hook you'll need is an I hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter hook. All right, so we are going to start off with our G hook, which is a 4 millimeter hook. And we're going to either do a magic ring or you can chain 4 and join. So I'm going to make a slip knot and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from there I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch to make a ring. And there's your ring. So make sure you know where the center is. From here we're going to chain 2, sorry. 1, 2, and that doesn't count for anything. We're going to be working puff stitches around in the ring. So we're in this first round, we're going to do 8 puff stitches. So let's do the first one together. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the middle of that ring, pull up a loop, and pull it as high as the chain 2. And then we're going to repeat that 3 more times. So that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then from here we're going to yarn over and pull through all of the loops on our hook. And then we're going to chain 1 and pull that chain 1 tight to close your puff stitch. So that was the first puff stitch, and let's do another one together. So we'll yarn over and insert our hook, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook and chain 1 and close that chain 1 pretty tight. And we're just going to repeat that around. So we did 2, we need 8 total, so go ahead and do 6 more and I'll meet you there. All right, so I made 8 puff stitches, and now we're going to slip stitch into that second chain of the chain 2 right before that first puff stitch. So we're going to find that as best as we can and then slip stitch, and that is round 1. Now you can take this tail if you weaved over it and kind of pull it tight. It's going to open up, but when we weave it in, we can, you know, pull it tight and then anchor it. So don't worry too much about that. So now it's time for round 2. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into this space in between the first 2 puff stitches. So I'm just going to insert my hook in between those 2 puff stitches and then slip stitch so I can work out of there. So from here we're going to chain 2, 1, 2 to give us the height for our next round. and then I'm going to put 2 puff stitches in between in this space here. So I'm going to yarn over and do my first puff stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then yarn over and pull through all of them, and then chain 1 to close. And then I'm going to put 1 more into the same space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over and pull through all of them, and chain 1 to close. So we're basically putting 2 puff stitches in the same space, and now we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 puff stitches into this next space in between the next 2, the next empty space between. So all right. And so we're going to do that for every space in between all of the puff stitches. So at the end of this round, you should have 16 puff stitches all together. So go ahead and finish that, and I'll meet you. Okay, so I finished my 16 puff stitches, and this is what it looks like now. So from here, I'm just going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space right before the first puff stitch as best as you can. Sometimes it's hard to see, but slip stitch there. And then I'm going to slip stitch over to this next empty space between the first 2 puff stitches. So slip stitch into that empty space there. All right. And then we'll chain 2. So in this first space, we're actually just going to put 1 puff stitch. And 4. And in the second space, in the next space between 2 puffs, we're going to put 2 puff stitches. So we did 1 puff stitch, and then we did 2 in the next space, and that's going to repeat. So in the next space, we'll do 1 puff stitch. And in the next space, we'll be putting 2 puff stitches. All right, so we're going to repeat that all the way around. And at the end of this round, you should have 24 puff stitches in this row. All right, so this is what it looks like once you finish your 24 puff stitches for round 3. And then we're going to try to find that chain 2 space and do a slip stitch there. And that is the end of round 3. All right, so now we're going to slip stitch over into the next space between puff stitches, and then we'll chain 2. And this is the repeat for row 4. We're going to put 1 puff stitch in this first space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 puff stitch into the next space between puff stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this next space here, we're going to put 2 puff stitches. And that is our repeat. So we're going to be putting 1, 1, and then 2. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. And at the end of this round, you should have 32 puff stitches. All right, so this is what it looks like once you finish your row 4 with the 32 puff stitches. And now we're going to slip stitch into that chain 2 space right before the first puff stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch over to the next space between puffs and chain 2, 1 and 2. So this time we're going to excuse me, this time we're going to be putting 1 puff stitch in the first 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3 spaces. So 1 puff stitch in each space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's 3. So in the next space, we're going to put 2 puff stitches there. And you can kind of see how this is going. We're increasing by 1 before we get to the space that has 2 puff stitches. I think I only did 3 wraps. 2, 3, and 4. There we go. So in this round, we're doing 3 single puffs and then 2 puffs. And we're going all the way around with that repeat. And at the end of this round, you should have 40 puff stitches total. All right, so this is what it looks like once you finish your 40 puff stitches. And we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that chain 2, the second chain of the chain 2 before that first puff stitch of the round. And now it's time for row 6. We're going to slip stitch in between the next 2 puff stitches. And then chain 2. 1, 2. All right, so for row 6, if you've been following the pattern, we're going to be doing 4 single puff stitches before we get to the spot with 2 puff stitches. So we're going to do 1 puff stitch in the first space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 in the next space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 puff stitches. 2. 3 and 4. That's 3 puff stitches and 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So now we have 4 puff stitches in a row, and in this next one we're going to be putting 2. 4. So that's 1. And so that is the repeat for row 6, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 single puff stitches in a row, and then in that 5th one we'll be putting 2 all the way around, and at the end of this row you should have 48 puff stitches. All right, so this is what it looks like once you finish row 6, and we are going to go ahead and slip stitch into that chain 2 space at the beginning of the row. Now from here we're going to go ahead and switch hooks to the H hook, which is the next size up. Okay, so we're going to switch to our 5mm hook for this next row. And we're going to change a little bit. We're not doing the puff stitches. Now, if you do want this to be bigger, mind you, this is how big the puffs are in the middle. So if you do want this to be bigger than this, then you can continue this pattern. You're just going to be adding 1 more puff stitch in between before you get to the place where you have 2. So if you did the next round, you would do 5 puff stitches and then do 2 puff stitches and repeat that. So, but for this next row, we're going to be doing half double crochets. So what I'm going to do first is we're not going to slip stitch over anymore. We're going to work into this chain space in between where we're at, where we slip stitched at. Okay, so from here we're not going to chain 1 or anything. We're just going to yarn over, insert our hook into that space in between there and pull up a loop, and then do a half double crochet. And we're just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're doing 5 half double crochets, and then in the next space we're going to put 2 half double crochets in there. Okay, so 1 and 2. Okay, and that is our repeat. So we're going to do 5 half doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to be putting 2 half doubles in the next space. 1, 2. So that is our repeat, is 1 half double in the next 5 stitches, and then 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. And at the end of this round, you should have 56 half double crochets. All right, so this is what it looks like when you finish your 56 half double crochets, and then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first half double of the round. And then we're going to switch hooks one last time, and this is the final round, and we're going to switch to our eye hook, which is the 5.5 millimeter hook. Now from here, this is the fun part, y'all. We're gonna do our ruffles. And if you watched the loofah tutorial, this is very similar to that. So what we're gonna do is chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this first chain space, we're going to be putting 5 double treble crochets. So we're gonna yarn over twice, insert our hook into the same stitch that we slip stitched in, and yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to repeat that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have one more because that chain 4 didn't count for a stitch. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we just put 5 double treble crochets in the first stitch, and that is what we're doing all the way around. So yarn over twice, insert your hook into the next stitch, and put 5 double treble crochets into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to continue this pattern all the way around, putting 5 double treble crochets in every stitch. And you should have 240 double treble crochets at the end of this round. All right, so I've made it all the way around, putting 5 double treble crochets in every stitch. And I said 240, but you're supposed to have 280. Not that it really matters. It's pretty full. There's room for error with that. So yeah, so once you're done with that, you can go ahead and slip stitch into the very first stitch and chain 1 and fasten off. And that is your face scrubby. So this is what it looks like brand new. It's a little more ruffly. This one is older. It's been pushed flat several times when I stored it, but that's what it looks like brand new. This is what it'll look like eventually. And it's just a really cute lacy way of making a face scrubby. I actually think this design could be used for other things. As is, this could probably be a very cute coaster. If you do know how to expand the circle, like I talked about before, by putting one more single puff in the next round, as you did in the round before you get to the increase by putting 2 puffs. If you expand this circle out, it would be a very cute doily. It could be a very cute placemat as well. So this pattern you can use for multiple projects. I think. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. So thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment, like this video if you like this video, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.